In every small town, you'll find two things in abundance: big hearts and even bigger tongues. Love, as they say, doesn't always bloom without a little storm brewing on the horizon. And for Clara, tonight felt like the calm before a hurricane. There she was, standing just outside the old community barn, the warm glow from within, spilling out onto the dusty ground. The air was thick with the scent of hay, barbecue, and the sweet, cinnamon-laced aroma of the apple pie she clutched in her hands. It was her ticket in, her offering to the town's annual harvest dance. She wore a simple floral dress, one she'd saved for a special occasion. Though right now, it felt more like armor than celebration. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "You can do this, Clara," she whispered to herself, the words barely a puff of air. "It's just dinner, with half the town watching." The thought made her heart hammer against her ribs. In a town this size, every glance was a story, every whisper a headline. Just as she was about to turn back, a familiar voice cut through the evening quiet. "Well, I'll be damned." She looked up to see Jack Weston walking towards her, his usual rugged rancher look replaced by a clean shirt and his best hat, held respectfully in his hand. His eyes, the color of warm whiskey, lit up the moment they landed on her. If beauty had a scent, it'd be apple pie tonight. A nervous laugh escaped Clara's lips. "Don't say that," she chided gently, her gaze darting around. "Folks will start talking." A slow, confident smirk spread across Jack's face. He closed the distance between them. "Let 'em," he said, his voice low and steady. "I'm done listening to folks." He extended his arm, a silent invitation. For a moment, she hesitated, her mind racing with all the reasons she shouldn't. But then she looked into his eyes and saw a sincerity that silenced all her doubts. She placed her hand on his arm, the fabric of his shirt warm beneath her fingers. Together, they walked into the barn, stepping out of the shadows and into the light. The moment they crossed the threshold, it was like a silent movie had just found its soundtrack. The lively chatter of the crowd dipped, and heads began to turn. The whispers started almost immediately, a low hum that followed them like a shadow as they made their way through the throng of familiar faces. "Is that Jack Weston?" one woman murmured to her friend, barely bothering to hide her stare. "The rancher with that big spread out by Willow Creek?" Her friend leaned in, her voice dripping with disbelief. "With her? Oh, honey, love must have gone blind." The words, sharp as barbs, found their mark. Clara heard them, and the fragile smile she'd been wearing began to crumble at the edges. She dropped her gaze to the floor, the pie in her hands suddenly feeling heavy. Jack, ever watchful, noticed the shift instantly. He saw the light in her eyes dim, and a protective instinct surged through him. He leaned in close, his voice a warm, private murmur, just for her. "Don't let him steal your smile," he said, his breath ghosting her ear. "They don't know what real beauty looks like." He gently took her other hand, his calloused palm a comforting anchor in the sea of judging eyes. Without another word, he led her past the long tables laden with food, straight towards the center of the room, the dance floor. The band struck up a slow, sweet melody, the mournful cry of a fiddle filling the vast space of the barn. Jack turned to face Clara, his hands finding her waist, as hers instinctively went to his shoulders. The wooden floorboards creaked beneath their feet. I don't know how to dance," Clara confessed, her voice barely audible over the music and the renewed buzz of the crowd. She felt clumsy, exposed, like a fawn caught in the headlights. Everyone was watching. Jack just smiled, a gentle, reassuring smile that made the rest of the world fade away. "Good," he said softly. "Then you'll follow my lead." and she did. He guided her with a quiet confidence, his step sure and steady. He wasn't a fancy dancer, but he moved with the natural grace of a man who knew his own rhythm. Clara's initial stiffness slowly melted away. Her nervous laughter began to bubble up, mixing with the low rumble of his voice. As he told her a funny story about one of his stubborn horses, he twirled her softly, her floral dress flaring out around her. And for that one perfect, fleeting moment, the whispers disappeared. All that remained in the entire world was the sound of a cowboy's steady heartbeat and a woman's unburdened laughter, echoing under the rafters of the old barn. The crowd kept watching, but now their expressions had changed. Surprise had replaced scorn, and in some eyes, a flicker of envy had begun to glow. After the song ended, they slipped out of the barn and back into the cool night air. The moon was high and bright, casting a silver glow on everything, making the world seem quiet and new. They stood in a comfortable silence for a moment, the distant sound of the fiddle, the only thing breaking the peace. Clara finally looked up at him, the question that had been weighing on her heart all night finally spilling out. "Jack, why me?" she asked, her voice filled with a genuine, painful confusion. "You could have any girl in this town. The prettiest ones. The ones from the right families." Jack's easygoing smile faded, replaced by an expression of profound seriousness. He looked at her as if he was seeing her for the very first time, and for all the times to come. "Because no one else made me feel like home," he said, his voice raw with an honesty that took her breath away. "The other girls, they're like fancy storefronts, pretty to look at but empty inside. And you?" He took a small step closer, his gaze unwavering. "You've got the kind of heart a man builds a life around." Tears welled in Clara's eyes, not of sadness, but of a relief so deep it felt like she could finally breathe. After holding her breath for years, a single tear escaped and traced a path down her cheek. Before she could wipe it away, Jack reached out and gently lifted her chin with his finger, forcing her to meet his gaze. "Don't ever hide again, Clara," he said, his voice firm but tender. "You were made to be seen." They came to the harvest dance for a simple evening of music and community. But as they stood there under the vast star-dusted sky, they left with a silent promise. It was a promise of a new beginning, a promise neither had yet found the courage to say out loud, but one that was already taking root in the fertile ground of their hearts. The camera fades as they walk away, hand in hand, two silhouettes moving as one, down the starlit road toward a future that was finally their own. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more tales of love, courage, and the beauty of being truly seen. We'll see you in the next one.